motion agenda, Gary. Okay, sure. It'll be B on the motion agenda.
Stuck on 30 seconds. 15, there we go.
Good evening. I call this February 7, 2017 Middletown City Council meeting to order. Would you stand with me for a moment of meditation and a pledge of allegiance to the flag? Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Skank, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bronston.
Here.
Mr. Bohannon.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Picard.
Here.
Mayor Mulligan.
I'll entertain a motion to excuse Mayor Mulligan.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Ms. Skank.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Picard.
Yes.
Ms. Bronston.
Yes. Do we have any citizen comment cards? Seeing that we have none, we'll move on to our city manager's report. Mr. Atkins?
Thank you, Vice Mayor and City Council. I've got a lot of information tonight of upcoming events. Wanted to go over a little bit and ask your input on the downtown master plan. That was presented by Mallory and Downtown Middletown, Inc., I believe, at the last meeting in February. Mallory is available at the next meeting at the end of this month, to answer any questions, concerns, anything at all. I need to know if you need her to come to that meeting or if you have any other questions that we can answer for you by email or in person. But I needed some input from council as to whether or not you would like her to come back and answer any questions at that meeting. Nothing at this time. She can always come back at a later time. I will ask you probably at that meeting if you're ready to adopt the downtown master plan in whole or in part. And if the answer is no, you're not ready yet, we can talk about what else, other information you might need to further that conversation along. Wanted to also let you know at the second meeting in February, we'll be having Butler County RTA make a presentation. I have been working with Butler County RTA and the City of Monroe on a concept to bring more transit down from Dayton. We are looking at a route that potentially would go from the South Dayton Transit Hub down through Middletown, stopping at Town Mall, down to the Monroe outlets, but then also making a swing through a number of our employment bases in both Middletown and Monroe. We've been talking a lot with the Chamber, talking with our employers, and we're having trouble getting enough workforce down to the area. So this is an opportunity to get people down to shop at our places, hopefully bring some people down from Dayton to work at our jobs here in Middletown and Monroe, and then a chance, of course, for our people to go up to Dayton if they choose to and hook into the Dayton system and go into there. You'll see that presentation in February. Monroe Council will be seeing it, I believe, next week at their regularly scheduled council meeting. If you're interested in the concept, believe it has some merit, then we would get more of the numbers together and give you an idea of exactly what the route might look like and the cost. We do have extra grants in transit that are available to cover over 50% of the operating costs. So again, we'll give you a little more information as this goes along as the potential benefits, a possible route, and the costs to the city of doing something like that. March 7th, we will be having Callista from Middletown Moving Forward here to present the community visiting project that has been worked on the last half of the year by Middletown Moving Forward and the Community Building Institute. That'll be another piece of potentially the next master plan for the city. And then on March 21st, we will start talking about the housing data that's starting to come in from our housing study and how that would all come together in a new housing policy for the city moving forward. So that's what we've got going. We'll ask the City Council to adopt in whole or part each of these pieces as we move forward and all of your questions are answered. There'll be really a two-set phase of questions here. The first questions will be, do you wish to adopt each piece of the plan? Do you like what you see here? Do you like the concepts and priorities? Is this the type of downtown you would want? And the amenities and things that you would want downtown? With that, the second phase of questions will be, somewhere around mid-year, we'll have to have a conversation about how do these stack up in our priority. In other words, we love the downtown plan, but it's going to take a lot of money to do it. How does that stack up to community health? How does that stack up to housing? How does that stack up to paving? And how are we going to allocate dollars to get all of this done over a period of time? As an example, if we have $1 million to spend on projects in 2018, I'm going to ask you, how are we going to allocate that to the different projects that you want to go? What would you like to see move towards the downtown implementation? Is it 50,000? Is it 15% of the total? Is it a certain project that you would like us to start with to start the downtown project? And I'll walk you through all that. But the idea will be then as we get to August, I hope to have a pretty good understanding from you as to, Doug, this is where we see the priorities. Most important is this, second is this, third is this. That gives me a chance as we get into August and we start talking about the budget for 2018. I hope to give you a priorities-based budget in 2018 that is consistent with the priorities that you've set as we've gone along this year. As we adopt a master plan, and that's now formally adopted as the plan of the city as we get to 19 and 20, theoretically it should be almost, you should know what's coming in 19 and 20 by the master plan as we've laid it out. So that's where we'll be heading through the rest of this year. I told you that we would see a lot on your plate this year, and we intend to continue to do that. But the next piece will be Butler County and some of our transportation issues and at the end of February, community visiting early March, housing at the end of March, and we'll continue to march each of those through in different phases to make sure you're comfortable with the information, answered all your questions, and then having seen it, what do we want to do with that piece of it? So that's all I have tonight, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Consent agenda, Ms. Genk.
For your consideration this evening, we have the approval of the City Council minutes from January 17th, 2017. To receive and file Board and Commission minutes from the Cemetery Board, November 16th, 2016, the Board of Health from December 13th, 2016, and the Library Board from December 13th, 2016. To receive and file oaths of office for Sarah Bontrager and Stephen Crank. To To receive and file oaths of office for Special Police Officers Mark Armstrong, Marcus Callahan, Kevin Hall, and John Rickert, Jr. To confirm personnel appointments of Elena Sleesman, Dispatcher, Department of Public Safety, Division of Police. To receive and file a $25,000 irrevocable letter of credit for AJB Realty, LLC, guaranteeing public improvements constructed as part of the Hendrickson Road Extension and New England Heights replat. To announce the 2017 Council Representatives and Liaisons for Board and Commissions, Airport Commission, Tal Moon, Architectural Review Board, Steve Bohannon, Board of Health, Larry Mulligan, Board of Library Trustees, Dan Picard, Citizens Advisory Board, Dora Bronston, Planning Commission, Larry Mulligan, and an alternate, Steve Bohannon. Convention and Visitors Bureau, Larry Mulligan. Emergency Management Advisory Council, City Manager Adkins. Keep Middletown Beautiful, Larry Mulligan. Master Plan Implementation Committee, Larry Mulligan. Middletown Cemetery Board, Steve Bohannon. Middletown Moving Forward, Larry Mulligan and Dora Bronston with an alternate of Tal Moon. Park Board, Steve Bohannon. Self Board, Dan Picard. Tax Incentive Review Committee, Dora Bronston. Warren County Municipal League, Tal Moon. OKI Regional Council of Governments, Larry Mulligan, alternate, Dora Bronston. We are going to remove item H. We're going to move forward with I, approve the purchase of inline valve insertion equipment for water maintenance from Advanced Valve Technologies Incorporated, the only bidder, in the amount of $43,178.07. This price includes a trade-in of $10,000 for a Hydra stop machine. And to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with John Hovell for tax process server services.
Thank you, Ms. Skank. Can I have a motion for the actions and issues listed in the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Skank, can you call the roll?
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Picard.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Ms. Bronston.
Yes.
The first item on the motion agenda is to authorize a sale of a vacant lot at 317 Charles Street to Graphic Packaging for $500.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. We had demolished the house at 317 Charles Street during the Moving Ohio Forward program a few years ago. Graphic Packaging would like to obtain the lots directly across from their offices. We would standardly sell the residential lot for $500. It's ready for your action tonight.
Any questions? Okay, can we entertain a motion then?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Skank?
Mr. Picard.
Yes.
Ms. Bronston.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
And the second item we'll have on the motion agenda is to approve the purchase of a Ford four-door Explorer for the Middletown Municipal Court from Lebanon Ford of Lebanon, Ohio, in the amount of $26,739. This vehicle is available through the state ODAS Cooperative Purchasing Program.
Can we entertain a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, concerns?
If I may, I've been on council, and this is my 8th year. And during the previous 7 years, we've approved purchases of four-wheel drive vehicles for the fire department, the police department, the engineering department, and the bailiffs already have one, and this will be their second. I've questioned those as we've moved through, and I've always received some explanation of why we needed to do them, and I've always voted yes. But given in 2017 our tight financial situation with a hiring freeze in place, I am very concerned about this purchase. I have to admit I was surprised at how low the purchase price is, but I still have questions as to whether or not this vehicle is needed, given the fact that in this winter, that we've not had one plowable snow event, and in the last winter we had one which occurred on a Sunday. So I've always been concerned about it, and I'm just expressing my concern for these purchases. And I guess basically letting city employees, department heads, and whatever know that in the future, I probably will vote no for the purchase of four-wheel drive vehicles. So, having said that, thank you.
Okay. Any other concerns? Ms. Skank, can you call the roll?
Mr. Picard.
Abstain.
Ms. Bronston.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
No.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Okay, that moves us to the,
we'll always go with council's. I will let you know that court has the ability to do almost anything they want to anyway. And so this is almost a polite approval of what they're allowed to do on their own anyway. So I will have to now go back to Les and figure out what this does, since it failed, didn't it?
We have 2 yeses and a no and an abstention. An abstention always goes with the yeses.
Then I appreciate that. I apologize, and I misunderstood.
And that's why I held my hand up. I needed to count, see what I had here. But it is approved.
Okay, thank you. And I do appreciate your concerns.
Thank you.
Okay, so are we ready for council comments now?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's quite all right. Mr. Picard, we'll start with you.
Thanks. I've already had my comments.
Okay. Mr. Bohannon?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This week, the last couple of days, we've probably noticed in the newspaper and on TV, there's been some publications of our nuisance ordinance in town. And being the director of the Landlord Association, it's been a big issue with our organization that we try to clean up our situation with rental properties and tenants and things like that. So I was really pleased to see the reports that were made and the efforts that's being done by our police department. Lieutenant Cunningham did a very nice interview with Larry Davis at Channel 12 yesterday. And just wanted to let everybody know that there are a lot of landlords in town that are taking this very seriously. We want to clean up this town. Unfortunately, there's probably more absentee landlords in this town than there are owner of rental properties in this town. So we as local landlords, we're going to do our very best to try to clean up and do our part, and hopefully somehow the word will get out to the absentee landlords that you're just not going to come here and be able to do this type of thing in Middletown. Thank you.
Good to hear. Mr. Moon?
Yes, thank you. Just I wanted to pass on my thoughts to both the Fishball family and the Nine family. We lost 2 pillars of the community in the last couple weeks, Sherry Fishball and Betty Lou Nine. Betty Lou was involved in just about everything in this community, including serving as the school board president for 4 years. And Sherry Fishball was involved with the chamber. Her family is everywhere, and my heart just goes out to them, and we pass on our condolences. That's all I have.
Yes, thank you. So do I. Pass condolences to both the Fishball and the Nine family. My mom worked for Sherry's uncle, Walter Flinning, Cliff Finning, Dr. Cliff. And Scott and I went to school together, Scott Nine, so I was very close to his mother, and so I ditto those same sentiments. Wanted to say that I went to the Middletown Symphony last Sunday, and it was great. We had previous NFL player Mike Reed there. He's quite instrumentally inclined, and the guy is a hoot. He was very humorous, and it was a great symphony that day. Also want to say there are a lot of activities at Cincinnati State. Every Friday this month, they'll be having a Black History Month session of some sort. This Friday will be the local African American Writers Symposium at 6:30 right there in Thatcher Hall. So with that being said, Ms. Fox, we can move on to the legislative items.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are 9, I apologize, there are 9 items of legislation on tonight's agenda. Of those, 3 items are emergency legislation. Therefore, we will need a motion to waive the charter provisions requiring 2 separate readings. Just as to the following ordinances, there are also 2 that are emergencies, but they're not requiring action until the next hearing. So these are just the ones that will require action this evening. Ordinance number O 2017-3, ordinance number O 2017-4, and ordinance number O 2017-5.
Can we entertain a motion for those items?
I move to suspend the charter provision that requires reading on 2 separate days and to declare ordinance number 02017-03, ordinance number 021704, and ordinance number 02017-05 emergency measures and to be read one time only.
Okay. Ms. Gank?
Ms. Bronston?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Picard?
Yes.
The first ordinance we have tonight is ordinance number O 2017-02. This is an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the Community Reinvestment Area Agreement between the City of Middletown and Historic Getz Tower and Grassroots Ohio LLC. This is a second reading and is ready for action this evening.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to adopt that?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Skank?
Ms. Bronston.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Picard.
Yes.
Second is ordinance number O 2017-03. This is an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council. This is as to dispatchers for the years January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Skank, can you call the roll?
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Picard.
Yes.
Ms. Bronston.
Yes.
Next up, we have ordinance number O 2017-04. This is an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a professional services contract with the Center for Family Solutions to provide victim advocate services and declaring an emergency.
Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved. I'm sorry. Second.
Any questions, concern?
I believe the Exhibit A was passed around also. Good.
Okay. Ms. Skank, can you call the roll?
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Picard.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Ms. Bronston.
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2017-05. This is an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing the purchase of 2 power load systems from Stryker and declaring an emergency.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Skank?
Mr. Picard.
Yes.
Ms. Bronston.
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2017-06, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing contracts for ground maintenance for 2017 and 2018 and declaring an emergency. There is no action, though, requested until February 21st, 2017, so at our next meeting.
Okay. Mr. Atkins, you have any?
Yes, Your Honor, just briefly, we had some mowing issues during last year when we were trying to keep our vacant lots and areas clean. We have met with the contractor who fell behind. They are in agreement that they could not keep up with it this year, so we've redistributed some of the lots amongst some of our other vendors. This legislation will clean that up so that everybody is back within their comfort zones, and we should do a better job this spring keeping things mowed and under the ordinance.
And I do understand, we do have 3 contractors working on this now.
Correct.
Next up is ordinance number O 2017-07. This is an ordinance prohibiting medical marijuana cultivators, processors, and retail dispensary establishments. These are ones licensed under Ohio Revised Code Chapter 3796 from within the municipal limits of the City of Middletown and declaring an emergency. This also will be addressed at the next meeting on February 21st.
Okay. Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. On June 6th, Governor Kasich of last year, Governor Kasich signed into law House Bill 523, which led to the legalization of medical marijuana in the state of Ohio. However, they are not intending to have regulations in place until September of 2018 as to how those facilities, cultivation, sales, and all that will operate in the state of Ohio. You adopted last September a moratorium allowing this to freeze that until we figured out what was going on. Well, we now know they will not have any regulations on how to do this until September of next year. With that in mind, staff has talked about it extensively, and we are recommending a ban of all the medical marijuana stuff at this time, cultivation, growing, sales, all of that, until the regulations are out. The good part about this is it will get done before the moratorium runs out. If you adopt it to the end of the year, we can always remove the ban. But our concern is if these things get open and established, and then 2 years from now, trying to get them reined back in, we don't believe that's the best way to go forward in the city of Middletown. And again, if we see the regulations in 18 and go, wow, this would be great for the city, all we have to do is remove the ban in our zoning code. So we are recommending a ban on this until the regulations are out.
Are we receiving any calls or inquiries or?
We have had 3 or 4 planning has received 3 or 4 phone calls saying they would like to know how to get a license to open up. And we've told them at this time, the answer is you can't.
Is this the same ordinance type thing that Hamilton did here a few months back in 2016?
I believe it's similar. I've not read their ordinance, so I don't want to say it's exactly the same. But
They did the somewhat similar thing.
that's my understanding,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Fox?
Ordinance number O 2017-08. This is an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the extension of the Great Miami River Trail. This is a first reading this evening, and no action is needed.
Your Honor, as you're aware, we've been talking for a number of years about how to close the final portion of the bike path between Middletown and Franklin, and it's a tricky piece of land. It's about 1.5 miles long, but with the river and the right-of-way, there's not much room there. It's going to be a lot of engineering. It's going to be more expensive than the other parts of the bike path. Construction now is already scheduled for 2020. It's a relationship between the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, OKI, the City of Franklin, and the City of Middletown. We will all be moving forward. This is the first part of those agreements that set things up for the funding that's already in place to get us ready for the 2020 actual construction of it. Middletown's share will be approximately $170,000. As we get things lined up over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll be looking for other grants that might be able to help us close that gap. But this is the first step in getting that lined up to get the money from OKI and Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission to get the process rolling for our 2020 construction.
Next up is ordinance number O 2017-09. This is an ordinance changing the zoning classification for parcel number Q65420850000016. This is located at 2717 Yankee Road, and they would like to change the zoning classification to I2, which is a general industrial district. This is a first reading and no action is needed this evening.
Your Honor, we had a public hearing on this on January 17th, and just through a clerical error, we had the hearing but did not have their legislation ready. This is the school district's parcel that they are asking to move from residential to industrial. It's been through Planning Commission and is recommended for approval. There was no opposition at the public hearing before City Council, and so this legislation will make that change at the next meeting at the second reading.
Okay.
And then lastly this evening, we have resolution number R 2017-04. This is a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Middletown, Counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2017. This is in regards to the general fund. This is also a first reading and no action is needed this evening.
Your Honor, this is the first step in trying to get our health care fund back in groove again. We talked to you about some of the changes we would make. At the beginning of the year, Dave Van Arsdale has retired, and before you are $453,560 in de-appropriations that after the second reading will be credited back to the general fund and relieving the first part of that loan we took out at the end of the year to balance out our health care fund. We are still working. I still believe everything I've heard is that the one large claim that we were hoping to get back, everything is still on track for that, but I do not believe we've heard the final answer. But we are continuing to wait to hire until June on some of those other positions. And so this is the first step in moving us back in the right direction.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns on that? Okay, if not, then we are going to recess to our executive session under the authority of ORC 121.22G8 to consider confidential information related to the marketing plans, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance, or to negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting request for economic development assistance, provided that both of the following conditions apply. Number one, the information is directly related to a request for economic development assistance that is to be provided or administered under any provision of Chapter 715, 725, 1724, or 1728. Or sections 701.07, 3735.67 to 3735.70, 5709.40 to 5709.43, 5709.61 to 5709.69, and 5709.73 to 5709.75, or 5709.77 to 5709.81 of the revised code, or that involves public infrastructure improvements or the extension of utility services that are directly related to an economic development project. Number 2, a unanimous quorum of the public body determines by a roll call vote that the executive session is necessary to protect the interest of the applicant or the possible investment of expenditure of public funds to be made in connection with the economic development project. After our executive session tonight, the meeting will be adjourned until February 21st, 2017 at 5:30 in council chambers right here. Thank you and happy Valentine's Day. Good night.
Need to make a motion.
We will make a motion.